By heart, Ari, but still.
So by a birthday in general, what you try to do at a birthday, you try to do three things. We try to do the three pillars. As you know, a hamatash is made from three corners. So I asked all the children in the school, why do we eat hamatash in Purim? And they said, because Haman's hat was shaped like a triangle. So I said, are you sure Haman's hat looked like a hamantash? Did it taste like a hamantash? And I said, no, give me a better reason. So another kid that speaks Hebrew says, Aznei Haman. Aznei means his ears. I said his ears was triangle. Well, it doesn't make sense. Well, the Torah says that the word Haman and Tash means Haman. Tash means weak. Haman wanted to weaken the Jewish nation. But what's the Jewish nation based on? Three pillars. Avraham, Yitzchak, the right and left, and the center is Yaakov. So he tried to diminish the strength of this nation, and also Chesed, which is Torah, learning Torah, prayer, and Gemilas Chasadim. Those are the three things that Jews always do. So Hashem says, there's no way you're going to get this nation out, because they have Torah, they have prayer, and they have tzedakah. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avram is tzedakah, Yitzchak is prayer, and Yaakov is Torah. So instead, we eat the hamantash, meaning we eat the Haman and say, listen, you tried to get us, but we're going to eat and show you no. We're going to be here and we're going to make a triangle. And what's the gel inside the hamantash? That's the Jewish mother. Because the Jewish mothers, they bring the sweetness to the Judaism. As you look in most people's homes, the mother is what brings in the sweetness. So eating a hamantash is not just to eat a hamantash because his hat was like that. His hat had nothing to do with it. But this represents the three pillars of Am Yisrael and the three pillars of what we do every day, Torah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. So tonight, what I picked is a maimer on Purim. This is a very interesting maimer because by learning this maimer, I think you'll enjoy Purim on a much higher level, because it teaches you a very powerful concept of Purim in a simple way, but a very serious high level. The Torah says that Purim is even higher than Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur, who wants to... No, Purim is even higher. So before we start, this maimer was said by the Rebbe on Purim in 1983. The night of Purim, the Rebbe used to come down at 9:30 and farbring till 2, 3 in the morning. And in the middle, the Rebbe said a maimer. So when you read the story of Purim, which part of the story do you feel the miracle is starting? By which section of the Megillah? Is it when Vashti was killed? Is it 4 years later when Esther got married? Is it when Bigsan and Seresh plotted to kill Achashverosh and Mordechai heard the conversation? Yeah, go from here. Steve, come around. There's chairs for you. Yeah. So is it when Bigsan? It was when Bigsan and Seresh plotted. Is it when Haman became the leader? Like, which part of the Megillah do you feel the miracle started? Which part of the Megillah the miracle actually started? Huh? What does not the Dashnas HaMelech mean? So he says, the Maharil writes that when you get to chapter 6, not chapter 1, not chapter 2, not chapter 3, not chapter 10. Okay. But chapter 10 is only 3 sentences. But chapter 6, the first line of chapter 6, you're supposed to raise your voice and read it much louder, because the main miracle is that. What's the main miracle? Balaylahu nadadash nasamelech. That night, what's that night? That's the night after Esther made the first party and invited Haman and Achashverosh to her party. That night after the party, and he drank, let's say, 5-6 gallons of wine, the king couldn't sleep. He couldn't sleep. Now, a king not to sleep is very rare, because kings normally sleep, according to the Torah, they sleep 3 hours in the morning. That means they go into like 9 a.m. They go far. And number two, a king not to sleep at night, it's not a normal thing. So he says, whenever it says the word king in the Megillah, who does it refer to? Hashem. So that means this night of the party, Hashem couldn't sleep.
So to say.
Now, what do you mean Hashem couldn't sleep? Hashem doesn't sleep to begin with. And you're telling me that the miracle is that the night of the party, the night of Purim, Hashem couldn't sleep. Hashem never sleeps to begin with. So what do you mean the miracle is that he didn't sleep? So v'yadua hadrusha Rabbeinu, everyone has a copy, right?
Yeah.
Nesidarenu, she'amru, it's the top line, the Purim Harishain. He said this Maimed on the first Purim when he came to America, which is in 1940. The previous Rebbe came to America on the 9th of Adar, and he said this Maimed, the Isa b'mahage haril. The Maril says, the Mabalayla hu, Tzichem lagbias kol. When it comes to the words Laila hu, you have to raise your voice. Why? Lefi shezehu ikar hanes. Because the main miracle is that the king couldn't sleep. This concept that you're supposed to raise your voice when you say Balayla hu, kosher imadeya begemara shechiv the Megillah, in the Talmud Megillah, there's an argument. If you heard the Megillah from chapter 6, you didn't hear chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you get the mitzvah. In other words, you have to go all the way. And he says there, one opinion, as long as you heard from chapter 6, you did the mitzvah. Why? Because that's the main miracle, is the king couldn't sleep. So chapter 6, the beginning of chapter 6, you should hear from 6 to the end. The halacha is that you have to hear the whole thing.
Right.
But in Talmud, there's a debate of a few opinions. Which chapter could you start, and that is sufficient? The halacha is that we have to start from chapter 1. But Balayla hu, so he asks a question. What does it mean that he couldn't sleep? Well, that's the main. It makes more sense that the main miracle is Bakashas Esther, Esther pleading to Achashverosh, please save my people, when she spoke to Achashverosh. So why are we connecting it with not sleeping? It makes more sense that Esther made a party, and she invited Haman, and she asked to come again, and she spoke to Achashverosh, and she said that, please, this is the guy that wants to kill my people. That's the miracle. Not that the king couldn't sleep. Why does the king couldn't sleep? Why is that the main thing? Another question, what's the connection? Another Shnas HaMelech, Basav Adam, Im Inachi Naila Shetzav Chayil Chayim. She'im Zeh Kosher Siva Megillah, this Am Mordechai, Shelo Yichav Leishtachava. Ukafi Shahaya B'Hayel Shemeshach Kol Hashana Le'etzem Chol Chutz. V'alachas Kam V'Kam V'Maisa V'Afilu Dibur. V'Ava B'Kein Aymin Shetekev Shanes Kosher Another Shnas HaMelech. He's asking a very strong question. It says that for the entire year, from when Haman made a decree, which was the 13th of Nisan, for an entire year till the 13th of Adar, the Jews were under tremendous pressure. Why? Because the letters were sent out that on the 13th of Adar, which is tomorrow, all the Jews have to be killed. And the Jews were like in tremendous stress. You imagine, like someone's giving a death penalty that in exactly 12 months on the 13th day. And then after Esther started to plead with Achashverosh, he said, I can't take back the decree that I gave. Once a king signs a decree, it's there. So if they want to kill you, they could kill you. But what I could do, I could give another decree that you have a right to kill them. That's why tonight and tomorrow was a very powerful war. Because the Jews killing the 80,000 Hamas then, 2,500 years ago, was a major war. Because they were able to fight back. The government didn't help. But they gave the right to the Jews to protect themselves. So the Jews had to make little armies in every town throughout the year. And they knew they only had one day. Because the king said, I only give you that day. Which is tonight, tomorrow. The 13th of Adar. So the Jews actually gathered together. And Esther was fasting that day. That they should win the war. And they had a massive war against Hamas. And they killed 80,000 to the point that in Shushan, which was the capital of Persia, they asked to give one more day. And they killed another few hundred. And then the next day was Purim. Why? Because after having such a massive war of 80,000 Hamas in 127 countries, and the Jews killed all, and not one Jew was hurt. Not one Jew needed even a Band-Aid. You know what kind of Purim that was? Here Israel is already fighting Hamas for how long? 16, 18 months. They didn't kill 80,000. So this is a massive thing. And yet what do we say? That the main miracle is that the king couldn't sleep. The main miracle is that the Jews had a massive war of 80,000 Hamas, and they killed it only in one day, without bullets, without bombs, without planes, without tanks, just by knife. How could they do that? And no, the main miracle is the king couldn't sleep. Doesn't make sense. So he answers, I'll tell you why. I want you to know when it says that the king couldn't sleep, you know which king couldn't sleep that night? Hashem couldn't sleep. Oh, why was Hashem sleeping? We're soon going to see what makes Hashem fall asleep. It's not coffee. Coffee doesn't make Hashem fall asleep. It's not liquor. There's something that the Jews do that make God sleep. What do you think could make God sleep? Unbelievable. What could be? What could make God sleep?
Learning Torah. Learning
Torah makes him get up.
I think the opposite. Bad. They do bad things.
Oh, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. You understand, Steve? How does God sleep? So he's going to explain here a very powerful thing.
He doesn't want to see it.
There's a time that Jews act in a not good way that causes God to sleep. What do you mean sleep? But here's what's interesting. Even though we cause God to sleep because of the way we behaved, still he woke up when he was supposed to be sleeping to save the Jewish people. You know, the miracle is that even though he's sleeping, because we made him sleep, but Lailahu, that night, Hashem was supposed to sleep, but he says, no, I'm not going to sleep. You guys did something that woke me up. And that's what caused the miracle of killing the 80,000 Hamas and everything that happened. In other words, by getting God up in the night that he was supposed to sleep, because the way, that's what made the whole miracle. So the Lailahu means, wow, God was supposed to be asleep because of the way we behaved. And yet God woke up of what we did, one good thing we did, and that caused everything else to happen. So the fact that Haman came and the estimate invited, and the whole thing is all an outcome of that.
So yesterday in your class, in the Talmud class, you mentioned the sentence where the Jews went out to the party about Hashemah, and then they knew, and they enjoyed. And what you were saying is that they really enjoyed not being Jewish. They enjoyed.
This is what it is. Look what he says. And this, he's gonna explain what does it mean to sleep by us, and what it means by God. How do we put God to sleep, and how we wake him up, and that's the miracle of Purim. That's basically what we're gonna walk out with here. So we could make God sleep. Imagine that. The way we behave can make God sleep.
You don't want to imagine it's not a good thing.
It's a terrible thing.
Terrible thing.
They're going to get to it.
Worst thing at all.
He says, how could it be God sleeping? It says, it says God doesn't even take a dream, it doesn't take a dremel, it doesn't even sleep. And here he says, in order to make the miracle strong, we need a special situation. Really, the king was supposed to sleep. Next page, Nadada. When you say nadada, the word nadada means like this. Like when you're moving.
One place to another.
That means it was supposed to be asleep, but it moved from where it's supposed to be.
Like a swing, back and forth.
Like it went away from where it was.
Wow.
Really, God was supposed to sleep. But the miracle was that even though he was supposed to sleep, he didn't sleep. So the question is, what does it mean? So we're holding ois beis. Umevar bezeh. Shezehu bedugmas ina shina el tzamach v'dam kipshutai. When a king sleeps, when a king is sleeping, his whole body is whole. Even anyone that sleeps, everything is there. Nothing leaves when you're sleeping. But what happens when you sleep? What happens when you sleep is when you're talking about your 10 faculties. Let's say your mind, your wisdom. Does it work when you're asleep the same way as it's up?
No.
What's the difference? He says a very powerful thing. Sleeping means when you're asleep, your intellect is not working so strong. So you can't differentiate between good and bad. You can't differentiate between darkness and light when you're sleeping. I mean, when you're really sleeping. Like, you sleep. You don't even know. In your dream, you could have dreams of two opposite things. It's like sleep means your intellect is not there, and therefore, you're not differentiating between right and wrong. You're not differentiating between light and dark. You're not differentiating between good and the opposite of good. On the contrary, he says, when you're sleeping, which part of your body works the best? That's working the best, not the intellect, not the emotion. Which part of your body? The digestive system, which is the lowest part of the body. When you're sleeping, that's working the best. So guess what? So now let's think about it. In this world, who is the best nation in this world?
The Jews.
The Jewish people. Guess what? When God is up means, what does God up mean? That when you're up, you can recognize the difference between right and left, and good and bad. So when God is up means you see the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. That the Jew has miracles. God is protecting the Jews. The Jews are chosen. You could see when God is up means the Jews, everything that is, the good is differentiated between the bad. So you see the difference between good and bad. And like it says in the Torah in today's Chumash, tomorrow, V'niflinu ani v'amcha mikol ha'am asher bnei Adam. Hashem said to Moshe, the Jews are going to be unique and distinguished from all the nations. But in order for that to happen, you need God should be lo yonav lo yishin. God shouldn't sleep. If God is not sleeping, then all of it, you know for sure, Shem Yisrael. Because if he's not sleeping, then the Jews are better. The Jews are special. The Jews are unique. So of course God is going to protect them. But this is what happens. Kasha, the last paragraph on the second page. When we are sleeping, why are we called Adam? Why did God call man Adam? Adam el Elyon. We are exactly like God. Uchiyadua, Teres HaMagid, Rabbeinu Azaken, the Magid of Mezrich, and the Alter Rebbe says, Da Malamaila Mimach. Mimach. The Choma Shalamaila Hamimach. Whatever happens above is from you. You, the ball is in your hand. You want God to sleep, you sleep. If you want God to be up, you're up. You make everything that happens by God.
Your choice.
And therefore, the Mida page, turn the third page. Adam So look what he says. What did Haman tell Achashverosh when he gave him the 10,000 silver coins to be able to kill the nation? You know what he said? Yeshnoi am echad. There's one nation that is spread out among the nations. Yeshnoi means there is. But instead of Yeshnoi, just read the same word Yoshnoi. What does Yoshnoi mean? They are sleeping. The Jews are not being Jewish. The Jews are eating non-kosher meat and food by Achashverosh party.
Assimilating.
In other words, Haman is telling Achashverosh, who's Haman? Haman is the Satan, who's going to God, because the king Achashverosh is God. He says, Yashnoi am echad. Your one nation is asleep. Why? Sheyashnu min ha-mitzvot. They're sleeping from doing mitzvos. Oh, God heard Haman say that. So God says, Nasa mida keneged mida. In shila shamayla. So God also went to sleep. What do you went to sleep? Shenestalik oy misalim hakoyach hamavchin umake b'malas shayisol. All of a sudden, when God sleeps, now you can't recognize that the Jews are special. Just like when you sleep, you can't recognize between good and bad. When God sleeps means now all of a sudden the Jews are like the rest of the nations. There's no uniqueness because he's asleep. So the specialty of a Jew is not there anymore. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So look what happened. Unbelievable. So when it says, we say it on the holidays, Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim. That was not recognized when God is sleeping. When God is sleeping, there's no difference between us and all the other nations. Who caused them to sleep? Us, because we stopped doing what Jews should do. Oh, guess what the next thing could happen? All of a sudden, light is dark. And look when you go to sleep. You can't think. You can't learn when you're sleeping. What happens when you're sleeping? Your elevated powers are not working properly. It's like mixed up. You could be in Australia and Israel in the same dream, and eating falafel and pizza in two different places. But what is working when you're sleeping? Dafka koiches hachi chumim, kifi koyach ha'ma'akel poel mosam. When you're sleeping, what works more powerful is your digestive system, which is the lowest part of the person's body. The same thing when God is sleeping, has more power? The lowest nations.
So
Hamas Yamach Shema.
So when you say every time that we have a bad dream, we have a dream that can come true and we need to doubt it. So what power that the dream have?
So the truth is the dreams that we have no power.
No power.
No power. But the dreams that Yosef had, that has power. Our dreams is usually what we're thinking about during the day, or we read an article and we fell asleep. So our dreams is just we call it vanity. Hevel v'hevel. Hevel v'hevel.
That was when God sleeps, He gives our enemy power.
Not he gives. When God sleeps, so there's no more differentiation between Jew and non-Jew. And the lower energies have more power, like your digestive system. So then the bad of the nations get stronger.
Hamas.
Exactly.
They're getting stronger or we're getting weaker, like we're losing our shield?
So we're not any more unique. We're not any more chosen.
We don't have the protection.
So you're just like everyone else.
They're losing the
And now who's getting the power is the digestive system, which is Hamas. Haman. Haman, who is Haman? The low of low. Who was Hitler, Yamach Shemai? The low of low. He wasn't huh?
Nothing. So God is sleeping a lot.
Oh, God is sleeping a lot. Okay, wait, we're almost finished. We're going to get how you can wake God up with an alarm clock. You want to hear the alarm clock of God, Daniel? You know what God's alarm clock is? What did the Jews do? You'll soon see they did one thing. Remember, all the Jews went to the party that Achashverosh invited them. A lot of the Jews in Shushan. That was a pretty heavy one. They all worshipped the idol of the Tselem, of Nebuchadnezzar. So it was a pretty heavy thing. But look what happened. In the next paragraph, Gimel, go to Gimel. Amnam. Amnam means but. The Gimel is the next paragraph. You see it?
Yeah.
On the third page. Even though the Jews were yoshna min mitzvahs, they were sleeping and they weren't doing mitzvahs, a big miracle happened. God was supposed to be sleeping, but not the dashnas. God woke up. What happened? Lefi shahaya inyan hamesiras nefesh. Something new happened. What happened? What happened was they had Mesiras Nefesh. What does Mesiras Nefesh mean? That they gave all the Jews. This is a very powerful thing. They didn't learn Torah and do mitzvahs. But there was one thing that happened before Purim, that was called Mesirat Nefesh. What was Mesirat Nefesh? The Jews had a choice. If they give up Yahadut, meaning if they give up their title as a Jew, they're not in Haman's decree. Why? The decree of Haman was La Yehudim Haisa Oira V'Simcha. So it was only for Yehudim. Yehudi means someone that acknowledges that God is God. So what happened? That year, for 11 months, every Jew had a choice. They could have said to Haman, we're no more Yehudi, we're just Israeli. And then they would be saved. If they just say, we're no more Yehudi, we don't acknowledge God, we're Yisraeli, they would be saved. They wouldn't be in Haman's decree. And they had 11 months to do it. In those 11 months, not one Jew, not only didn't change and take off his Jewish identity, but he didn't even have a thought to think like that.
That's why not the dash not
This is why we need like one.
That's
So the Mesirat Nefesh was, what's the Mesirat Nefesh? They didn't become all observant Jews, no. The Mesirat Nefesh was that they didn't give up the Jew.
right.
They fought Yahadut. I'm a Jew.
Because
They ate non-kosher, no problem. But since you had Mesirat Nefesh, you gave up your life, that you shouldn't give up the Yehudi of you, that woke up God. So God was sleeping. Why? Because we were sleeping. What were we sleeping? We didn't do Torah and we didn't do mitzvot. So that causes God to sleep. What woke up God? That not one Jew in the 11 months gave up for one moment, even in his mind, that I'm a Jew and I'll be Israeli. So this is what Hashem said. Even though it was at night. What mean at night? Really, God was supposed to be sleeping because the Jews were not doing Torah and mitzvot. But not the Shnas HaMelech, God woke up. Why? Because the Jews had Mesirat Nefesh, that not one Jew gave up their Judaism, their Jewish identity. I don't want to say Judaism. Their Jewish identity. No one gave it up. So what happened? Everything changed to the other. What did the king tell when he couldn't sleep? Bring me the books. Who is the king? Hashem. What kind of books is that? The books of the creation of the world. What does it say in the book? What did they find the story in the book? That Mordechai saved the king. Who's Mordechai? The Jew. So Hashem opens up the book and he says, hey, Mordechai, my Jew, saved me. Without Mordechai, I wouldn't be a god in this world. So what am I doing here? I know the Jews made me sleep because they're not doing Torah mitzvos, but one thing they're never going to give up, being a Jew. That they're going to fight for. So I'm going to go opposite. I'm supposed to be sleeping. No, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to open the books and show that Mordechai, the Jew, is what saves the Jew, God. If not the Jews, God has nothing to do in this world. God could retire. The Jew is what brings God to this world. And then what happened over here in this world, the same thing. Achashverosh tells Esther, let's hang Haman. Then he gives Haman's house to Esther. And Mordechai becomes Mishneh LaMelech Achashverosh. What does Mishnah mean?
Second
in command. Why is second in command? A Jew should be first in command. He says, the Kiven Shenemtzayin Adayim Begolus, since we're still in Golut, meaning still in exile, Akati Adech Shen Hadarga Chil Yena. The highest a Jew could reach is second to the king. Till Mashiach comes, we're not going to be the king. When Mashiach comes, now we're going to be the vice president. You can't be the president. It doesn't work. Not in today's times.
Rabbi, why Moshe is Eved Hashem and Mordechai is Mishneh LaMelech?
Like Yosef.
Like Yosef.
So you're asking the difference.
Moshe was the highest, right?
Second. In Egypt?
No, Moshe was the highest connection to Hashem in his time.
Like Rabbi Akiva was
In the old time. In the old time.
Right, yeah. Lo Konka Moshe, yeah. Moshe.
Rabbi Akiva was the second.
So you want to know why is his title Eved and Mordechai's title is Mishneh LaMelech. So there is an interesting concept. It says, Eved means a servant.
Eved Hashem.
Eved means he totally doesn't exist. Kol ma shekana Eved, kana Rabbi. Whatever a servant has is not his. It belongs to the master. To the point that a servant has no will of his own. So Moshe was so nullified to Hashem that he was totally Hashem's. He was totally like a kala. He was totally extinct to Hashem. That's a very high level. That's Eved Hashem.
So
Mishnah-
Eved is more than Mishnah.
Yeah, more than Mishnah Melech.
Eved Hashem.
Mishnah Lamelech. Mishnah means you still have something. You have a power. Eved means I'm totally Hashem. Right, he's nothing. V'chein haya b'zman Mordechai shehinig v'nigat kol Medina kiven she'netina sabas shenosh hasem melech. We're going to do the last paragraph. So does everyone understand what got Hashem to wake up?
But we didn't lose the
Can you emphasize that, Salah? You said that
They didn't wake, huh?
you said that Mordechai הציל את המלך. He saved the king.
Yeah.
So can you emphasize the point of the Salah, the saving action?
Okay, let's finish the paragraph and I got a good question. V'iyin zeh, no, good point. Mahava hiro nitzchi. It's interesting that Baal Shem Tov says that whoever reads the Megillah backwards doesn't get the mitzvah. What does L'mafreya mean, backwards? So literally it means you're doing from chapter 9 and then you go to chapter 8 and you go backwards. Baal Shem Tov says no. If you read the Megillah tomorrow night as a story that happened 2,500 years ago, you don't get the mitzvah. You have to read the Megillah that it's happening now. And you are the Jewish people. And you are waking up Hashem. Because you're not giving up your Jewish identity. Even though you don't do everything Hashem tells you. And you're not doing all the mitzvot, so Hashem is sleeping. But yet, you're going to fight that you are proud to be a Jew and you're not giving up the Jewish identity no matter what. You don't even have the thought of it.
So the Megillah is update every day.
Every moment. He says, look, v'inyin zeh, mahava hoira nitzchis. Shari etayra shebechol shana v'shana, every year, u'efrat. Shenegei l'yin Purim. Purim is one of the two holidays that are never going to cease to exist even after Mashiach comes. It says, Shelo yavru mitoich haYehudim v'zichron lo yasuv mizarom. It's never going to leave the Jewish people.
What's that holiday?
Chanukah. All the rabbinic ones. You can't miss Chanukah, latkes. Mashiach needs some latkes. Or Megillas Esther, la'ad. Even though Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkot are not going to be anymore, it's not going to be totally gone. It's just not going to mean anything. It's not going to be so unique because Mashiach is far above it. Purim is going to be always strong. Sheyesh Nesias Koyach, but even another Shnas HaMelech, that you could wake up God now. We could wake up God this Purim, and then Nasa Nes, God changes it, and what happens? Because since God is up, so when God is up, the Jews are special. Because you could differentiate between good and bad. Asher yishlu tu ha-Yehudim, heima b'sainhei, and that the Jews are now above their enemies. And la Yehudim haisa oira v'simcha, that God, the Jews have light, happiness, kepshutai, u'kaminach Yisrael. We say kain tiyeh lanu, and then u'moyofen shemiyad misra gula gula. So basically, the whole idea of Purim is that we will never give up the Jew of us, even if we're not doing everything Hashem wants, but the Jew of us who can never give up. And that's very important. And I say this, I see a lot of Jews here in Tenafly that I meet in Tenafly, not in that come from Israel, and they are missing this piece. They're missing the Jew. I'm not trying to make chas v'shalom. I'm just saying the point. They're missing the Jew of them. They don't feel that they're Jewish. I'm Israeli, I'm whatever, but they don't feel that Jewish specialty. Ashata v'chartona mikol amim. To the point that they don't say they're Jewish. They say to me, I'm Israeli.
Sleeping.
Well, but what else about the Jews that do say they're Jewish, but don't miss the connection to Hashem that you're talking about, and connect Judaism to something else, like social justice or something else.
Okay, that's another problem. That's we need to mean the real Jew.
Yes.
The real Jew.
Yes.
The Yehudi. They're proud of being a Jew and God.
But everyone inside is
Inside, we have to reveal it. We have to reveal it. Yeah, for sure. My dear friends, we're just going to do 2 more things, and then we'll sing the song of Purim. We say one chapter. Yeah.
1 second. We have to do Mishloach Manot. We have to do Matanot Lavyani. What is the internet to donate or something?
Yeah, I'm going to send you the link. Yeah. Okay, we're ready? Okay, here. 1 second.
מחצית השקל today, how much is in our dollar money today? $11. $4.5 maybe. Yeah. You have a Tehillim? Tehillim you have? We're going to say 1 chapter Tehillim. Because we're doing Torah, we just finished. Tefillah. This Tehillim is going to be for 2 reasons. One is to get all the hostages home tonight and Hamas gone, and a refuah shlema for all the ones that need a refuah shlema. And then we're going to give everyone tzedakah to put in the tzedakah pushka. So, the question? Go. Yeah.
Guys, 1 second. No, what is exactly said that the Yehudim, Mordechai said the king.
Yeah.
So you mean the...
Oh, so the Jewish people are the ones that save Hashem. What do we save Hashem? If not the Jewish people, Hashem wouldn't be known in this world. And the whole reason Hashem created the world is that the world should know there's Hashem. So without the Jews, Hashem would be nothing here.
Non-existent.
So we're saving Hashem's reality in this world. Not we're saving Hashem as Hashem. We're saving Hashem as being known in this world. So we're going to say chapter. Everyone have a phone? On your phone, if you open up your Tehillim, Perek 57.
Chapter 57?
Nun Zion. Nun Zion. Nun Zion. One phone that doesn't come up. You have it?
Yes.
1 second. You have it?
No, 1 second.
You have 57? You have it? You have? You ready? Everyone together. Lam Natseach al Tashchesu David Michtav Bevarcha B'nei Shaul B'Mara Chaneni Elohim Chaneni Kivacha Chasoya Nafshi V'tzel Kenafecha Echse Ad Yavor Havos Ekra Elohim Elyon La'el Goymer Eloi Yishlach Mishamayim Yishini Chedev Sheach V'Sela Yishlach Elohim Chastei V'Amitoi Nafshi V'Seich L'Boyim Eshkeva Loyatim B'nei Adam Shineim Chanis V'Chitzim V'Shoinam Chai V'Chava Ruma Shamayim Elohim HaKol Haaretz V'Decha Reshes Hechina L'Famai Kafaf Nafshi Kol L'Famai Sicha Shicha Nafuz Himself Shalonera Ura Choydi Ura Nebo Hechina Ira Shacha Oid Chev La'alam Adonai Az HaMelech HaL'Unim Kigolo Me'al Shamayim Chazdecha V'at Shchokim Amitecha Ruma Shamayim Elohim HaKol Haaretz V'Decha. I just want to make a Misha Berach. 1 second. Okay. L'chaim, let's just, I want to give everyone tzedakah. I want to say a special prayer. Misha Berach Avesena Avram Yitzchak Yaakov V'Yevarich V'Yirape Es Gita Tova Basdina Es Chaim Shmuel Ben Chaviva V'Es Eliyahu Ben Sulika Shavit Bat Leah Tomer Ben Sandra Mariela I did, yeah.
Idan Ben Yael.
Yafa Chalva Bat Nina. Bes Kol HaCholim Baruch Shekol HaKol Masmal Vod V'Schaz HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishal Chamafur Shlem HaShemayim L'chol Yereim L'chol Gedeim B'Ser Shachar Yisrael Refuas HaNefesh Refuas HaGuf Asher B'Golos Ma'Kariv V'Neimar Amen. Ay 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 ay.